Just on that comment, Jen, um, what I found was before I came to the realization that the Earth is flat, you thought curvature was staring out at the horizon and not seeing things in the distance. So the globe believers always think curvature exists in the perspective view. So when objects shrink in the distance, there's your curvature. Until I came to flat Earth, when I started to look left and right and realized that the perspective view is, call it 5 miles, but left to right is 25, 30 miles. So if something is supposedly disappearing in 5 miles down the perspective view as things shrink in the distance, then why are they not disappearing on the left to right angle? So when we say to people, like, where's your curvature? They often say, like, they kind of look puzzled, and then they kind of imply that as things go into the distance, they disappear. There's their curvature. So it was only when I came to flat Earth that I realized, start looking on the x-axis and seeing from left to right, and then seeing that there wasn't any curvature, that I finally started to realize. To your first point about the trying to shame you into changing your belief, I very much believe that they know that we'll die on this hill. And I don't think that they think that any amount of shaming will cause Jinn to change his mind. But what they're doing is they're trying to make Jinn look crazy so that anyone else who's on the fence listening to the conversation chooses not to pursue that path. So I think a lot of
That is
times
also,
when they're
yeah, sorry to
attacking
interrupt
you,
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
when they're
sorry.
attacking you, it's effectively to try and get any bystanders to not side with you, not necessarily to shame you into changing your opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah, I was
you
just going
won't
to
see
say,
a lot of female. I was just going to say you won't see a lot of females in the conversation because they're maybe not so. They're more sensitive. They're not maybe ready to be attacked personally. And sorry, Jen, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, two valid points there. Yeah, the character assassination kind of move where they try to make you look crazy. That is definitely their objective, without a doubt. Yes, and yeah, when women are subjected to that, that's not nice, is it? So they won't want to join. It's too toxic. I agree.
Yeah, and they're exactly like you were saying. The people who are anti-flat earthers are actually really intelligent and are following the conversation perfectly, but just choosing to disagree. And that's always been quite peculiar to me, is that, like you say, they understand the flat earth um, proposition or information, and then they also understand their rebuttal or talking points, and will continue to push their talking points even though flat earth has the stronger discussional points. Something I
The
wanted
flat
to
Earth
ask.
is the truth. You see, the flat Earth is the truth. What we put forward debunks their position completely, but they're adamant that they're going to be sticking with that, regardless. Even if the ship is sinking, they're going to sink with it.
Yeah, and it's like almost like a rehearsed thing. We'd see it with what is his name, Rumpus, and some of those guys. They would be cornered on a specific point, and then the very next day they're all arguing almost verbatim the same talking point. So when we talk about gas pressure without containment, then they want to talk about gas pressure at the bottom of the mountain versus gas pressure at the top of the mountain. And there you have a difference in gas pressure and there's no containment between them. And then you'd bring up that point, and the very next day, all of the anti flat earthers would be talking about this mountain and this pressure at the bottom of the mountain and pressure at the top of the mountain, and there's no containment between them. How can that delta of the pressure exist? So it's, to me, it feels very rehearsed in terms of how they try and rebut these
Yeah,
specific.
yeah. They call it the psychological mental gymnastics that they have to do all the time, which is rather entertaining when they do that. But what I get out of this flat of the pleasure I get, the most pleasure I get is when people actually do start to think back in their lives and they say, "You got a point there. I never thought." When they start to say, "I never thought of that," that's when you know you're beginning to get to them. They're beginning to wake up. When they start to say, "I never thought of that. I've got to look into that." Yeah, because I haven't seen the curvature. I don't remember seeing it ever. And if that's the case, could it be that it's because it's not there and you're living on a flat Earth? And the reason you don't realise that is because you've taken what they've given you as trust, and it's a slam dunk bang on. It's the truth, but you haven't checked it yet because you haven't validated. So I've done that. That's what, and I'm giving you the benefit of that knowledge. So you need to do that for yourself. Then when you know, no one can change your mind ever. So you need to go out and check it.
Yeah, spot on. It was one of the first things that I found very strange and yet appealing about this group of individuals is that 90% of them would say, "Don't believe me, go do your own research. Like, go check this out for yourself and form your own conclusion." Whereas pretty much everything else that you're being sold in this world is, "Trust me, I know. You don't have to go do the research. You don't have to go do the legwork. Just trust me. I've done it all for you, so you can just sit back and gobble up whatever I'm selling." And in this movement, everyone was saying, "Don't trust me. Like, don't just take my word as fact. Go down to a beach yourself. Find an object that's 20 kilometers away or 15 kilometers away. Work out the curvature calculation and form your own conclusion." And to me, that was like, that's strange. Because if it was just a belief or a narrative, it wouldn't be so repeatable or so provable, something that you can do yourself. And I'm not sure if you guys have been following the whole Jeranism implosion thing. But I find it very peculiar that someone who spent so many years taking apart every aspect of the ball can, after one observation, firmly jump back into the camp of the ball. It's, seeing a light in the sky does not destroy all the evidence of the ground, the terrain that you're standing on being level. The fact that, like, perspective and the curvature formulation or formula is completely wrong. Like, seeing an observation in the sky should not force you to move so radically to the opposite side, to reject all other 800 proofs that it can't be what it's said to be.
Can I ask you what your opinion of Jaron is now that he's moved away from Flat Earth?
Interesting question. I try not to form opinions of people, more about the content that they provide. So I appreciated Jaron in the beginning when he was raising interesting points. When he started to become more crypto focused, I sort of lost interest in his content, but not necessarily in the person. So when you say, what is my opinion of Jeranism per se, I would say he's still a B level or a C level student studying a topic.
Really?
And that
he's been a Flat Earth for 9 years. He was at the first Flat Earth conference and many of the others. He's produced pretty much about 1,000 videos on the topic. He was one of the top Flat Earthers. I wouldn't call him a B level.
I've consumed, well, what I mean by is like...
that's interesting.
In terms of aptitude. So Jeranism was one of the first guys I watched. I think I watched his third video he ever put out. My friend said, "Could the Earth be flat?" in 2015, and I was like, you're retarded. and he said to me, "Go watch this guy Jeranism." And I went and watched Jeranism, and then started following Mark Sargent and Globebusters, and so I've been sort of consuming the content since 2015. But I always found his depth of analysis to be 60%, like it's like a C grade level.
Okay, well,
And then
can I ask you then? Can I ask you then about
someone like a Nathan Oakley would take it to an A level analysis, where they would really go in depth in terms of studying the specific definition of a word, doing thousands of hours of analysis over a specific topic.
any?
And when I
Did he do
found
any science?
who Jeranism
Has Nathan compared to Jaren? What's their, as far as score, if you will, just put it like that? Sorry, as far as scientific observations.
No.
Jaren
But
is
what
one of the people who went
Nathan,
to Antarctica.
well,
Nathan was locked up.
Nathan was a platform that other people who had done science could come and share their findings. So you had
Oh, I see.
guys would come on, and then they would really dig into long distance observations, and then they would do like a 2-hour presentation on what they've discovered through their long distance observations. And then the next guy would come and do analysis, or like Rumpus, and then would come and attack him, and they would have 2 or 3 hour debates about one specific topic, where to me it seemed to get to the quality of like A level, not like Jeranism would put out a 10-minute video saying, "This is strange, I think NASA lies, blah blah blah," and it's kind of like a C level student saying, "This is my analysis of this topic, here's the findings I found in 10 minutes, let me know what you think, form your own conclusion." Whereas Nathan and them would actually pick apart a topic for several months on a specific aspect, and then would focus in on specific questions. And so as I started to sort of, for lack of a better word, like climb the rungs of flat earth, when you find someone like a quantum eraser who's very definitionally focused, or you find someone like a Nathan Oakley, or you find guys who are really trying to do like a master's level analysis of something, I found
have
them
you seen Quantum Eraser's video talking to Austin Whitsitt? Have you seen that video? Austin Whitsitt, about 2.5 hours, 3 hours somewhat, talking to Quantum Eraser. Have you heard that?
was this like last year or the year before, when
Yeah, it was last year.
Whitsitt was very focused on the ether and Quantum was very against the ether?
Yeah.
And then I did watch that.
Yeah. So I was kind of thinking about what you said about trust me, and people tend to just say trust me. But if someone does do experiments and someone does do observations and does conclude from those observations Earth isn't flat, that information is basically discarded. So there's only one conclusion from the observations that are acceptable. Whereas in science, observations that go against what is currently known also sometimes get sidelined, but sometimes they get accepted. I've seen that in numerous occasions. But it is true that in science they do reject outliers and people who go against the grain. So I suppose it's not unusual that Jaren would get the same sort of thing. So
well, I would just say that like observations is correlation.
Right.
You say that you have observations that prove a globe.
Oh, there's thousands, tens of thousands.
Okay, can you
not even questionable?
That's a good one. Give me one.
Every space agency on Earth that's an example of tens of I don't know, about tens of thousands.
You said
all the observations from the
but listen carefully.
Yeah.
You said personally
I didn't say
You
personally.
do observations that prove the Earth is a sphere.
I
So I'll
didn't
ask-
say observations for myself personally. I could, and I would find the Earth as a sphere. I don't have to do that, but I can.
specifically with which one do you think you could personally do to prove it's a sphere?
Hot air balloon. I can send up a hot air balloon. They're doing it right now. There's one channel, I think, on YouTube that they're going to be doing that. I only know about it because Will Duffy covered it. What is it called? Not Mage. That was the last one.
What would you expect to see from the altitude of a hot air balloon that could prove it's a sphere that you couldn't see from an aeroplane or from?
Well, hot air balloon is going to go much higher. But then after that, you could also send stuff up even higher.
No, but that's false. A hot air balloon does not go higher than an aeroplane. And from an aeroplane, that horizon is flat. And your priest, Neil deGrasse Tyson, says that even
I
from
don't follow Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why do you call him my priest?
He's the leader.
I never referred to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He's the leader of your...
He is not the leader. I'm going to push back because I'm tired of hearing people say, your priest, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why do you keep saying that? Why is Neil deGrasse Tyson the name that you bring up, but never the name that we bring up? Can you go back and any debate? No, it is not. You say that because you lie about him. I don't agree with it. Most of what he says, he's an atheist for starters. He can't even tell us what a woman is. The guy's not a priest. I don't insult you people by saying stuff like that. I don't say you're priest Nathan Oakley. None of us say that.
Well, the reason I raised it or brought it up, the reason I brought it up in that way was because you said, but Jeranism, he's like your flagship flat earther.
I didn't.
He was one of the first.
Good grief. Did I say he was your flagship flat earther? I said he was one of the original flat earthers. He is one of the most prolific flat earthers, and he's one that's done the most science compared to a lot of flat earthers. Not that that's not necessary, or if you don't do science, you're something in the wrong. But if you compare, say, for example, Nathan Oakley, he's done no science of any kind. He has a call-in show, and he
What if I don't like Nathan Oakley?
So then let me rephrase that and say,
okay,
Neil deGrasse Tyson is the most prolific globe Earth proponent, and he's done such science. And he said, from 127,000 feet, you will not see curvature. That shit is flat. And 127,000 feet is a heck of a lot higher than a hot air balloon.
What about 400, 500 miles? What about the altitude of the distance of the Himawari?
But just on the point, do you understand?
Well, you're saying, ha. What evidence do you have compared to that? What evidence do you have compared to that? Sea level observations. Besides sea level observations, what evidence have you got?
So I asked you, what observation could you personally make to prove your statement where you said, I can do observations to prove there's tens of thousands of observations I can do to prove that the Earth is a sphere.
I did not say that.
You did.
No, I did not. No, I did not. Rewind on YouTube. Go back and rewind on YouTube. I'll give you about 2 minutes. Go back and rewind on YouTube and see what I actually said.
I asked you, could you be specific and give me one?
I heard it too.
Yeah, I have been specific. People have been specific. I did say that every space agency that makes observations, those are tens of thousands of observations. I didn't say I'd done them personally.
Your top of mind point was, I'll go in a hot air balloon, which doesn't even achieve the same altitude as an airplane. And that was your go-to. I could go in a hot air balloon.
It wasn't my go-to. That was just the first thing I said. I didn't say that was my go-to. That was just the first thing I said.
I think you're talking about weather balloons, aren't you?
Yeah, if it's the first thing I say, that doesn't mean it's the only thing or the top of mind. That's just the first thing off the top of my head. We got plenty more observations. There are people who sent up rockets that aren't part of NASA, and they've shown curvature.
Plenty means nothing to me. That's why I asked you for specifics. That's why I said,
well, I'm asking you for specifics.
One specific, and you said hot air balloon. So yes, it was top of your mind, or the first thing that you
that's bad. That's just a bad faith argument, because that's not what I was implying.
That's what you said
saying
first.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of other observations. Yeah. What are you going to do with thousands of observations that various people in space agencies and outer space agencies made from high altitude, including Himawari, including basically all the rest of them that have made observations. So they all just lies, can be discarded.
Yeah, right along with, I mean, how much do you trust any of the pharmaceutical companies that make vaccines? Zero,
That's not
right?
the point. That's not the point, Gio.
Oh, it's an analog.
We're talking about space. We're not talking about pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. It's an analogy. Are you familiar with what an analogy is?
It's a red herring.
No, it's an analogy.
No, it's a red herring. I talk about space agency. You immediately just say pharmaceutical companies, as if those two are connected.
Remember how you guys started this? Remember it was the trust me bro? He was saying how he liked how people in this conversation were saying do your own research and not just trust me. And then the only evidence that you've provided is just trust me, bro. The space
just trust me, bro. Okay, let's analyze that for a second.
Yeah, you said trust the space agencies, bro, which is why I made an analogy saying, do you trust the pharmaceutical companies? Do you trust any of them?
Jaren didn't do trust me, bro. He went to Antarctica. They didn't just do the 24-hour sun. They did other observations, which you haven't, no one's been following that, it doesn't seem. But they have been doing observations. They observed the curvature of the Earth as well, and they did tests. Someone did a live stream a couple of days ago and mentioned that, but no one here is really following it. I don't blame you. It doesn't look good, but they didn't just look at the sun.
Cognitive dissonance, man. How do you explain all the inconsistencies of these so-called space agencies?
How do you explain the observations that Jaren personally made from Punta Arenas? He made the observation that the sun was in the south, which is incongruent with the flat Earth. And then when he went to Antarctica, the sun, as he thought it would not do, stayed above the horizon the entire time. They had like 4 or 5 360 cameras.
Red Cloud.
Yeah.
Why do you try to incorporate Jaren so much into it, but then divorce yourself of Neil deGrasse Tyson? You seem to be having a bit of both sides here. You want to divorce yourself of Neil deGrasse Tyson, but then infer or incur that we must respond to Jaren's observation.
Because Neil deGrasse Tyson has done no science. He's just a science communicator. And none of us bring him up.
Dude.
He's done no science.
Religion is
he's not astrophysicist.
You are in a bipolar religious state, dude.
He doesn't do Ricksky. I saw your comment on one of the videos that Jaren did. The one he just did.
Good for you.
When he did the
yeah. They deleted my first comment, dude.
Yes, probably for good reason, Ricksky. That's bad form, man. That's bad form. Just read it. Go read it. Read it. Tell us what you said.
I wrote it, dude.
And then come back and tell us how the people are being put down because of their beliefs. When you just put Jaren down because of his beliefs.
Hold on, Red. I want to know what was your comment, Rick? I'm curious. Ricksky?
Yeah, sorry. The unmute button always takes a really long time every time I reload Discord. I'm going to go pick up the comment so I can read it verbatim.
Okay, for sure.
I had a question for Red Cloud. Hey, great.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot. I apologize, guys.
No, it's okay. I appreciate you giving your point of view and the pushback. I noticed
no offense to anyone. Just FYI, no offense to anyone.
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead. Sorry, talking.
Yeah, it's okay. That doesn't mean anything when you say that after a bunch of.
I did not insult anyone. I didn't say you were crazy or mad or. I didn't do that. I'm pushing back on the topic. But Ricksky made a really nasty comment on the video that Jaren did a talk a couple of days ago. He put a horrible comment.
All right. So what happened there is that he asked you why you were using Jaren as some kind of a leverage against a bunch of people when other people, when they bring up Neil deGrasse Tyson, you have a contradiction there. He brought that up, and then you just instantly started personally attacking him. So did you want to respond to the original point, or should we just move on?
I can respond to the original point. No one on our side cites Neil deGrasse Tyson. Nobody. Go and find any Glober video, you would call a Glober, anti-flat earther. Go and find a video and show us where we have cited Neil deGrasse Tyson for anything.
Okay, has anybody?
We have not done that.
Sure.
Whereas Jaren.
Has anyone cited Jaren?
Has anybody in here cited Jaren?
No.
Nope. Busted again.
I know that Joe Rogan talks about Neil deGrasse Tyson all the time.
Except that Jaren is an overt flat earther, and Tyson is not an overt glober.
Yes,
and we don't cite him. We don't talk about. He's not on the what you would call the anti-flat Earth team. You just keep citing him.
He literally narrated the cosmos. How are
you
saying
literally
he's not
called
an
him my
Glober?
priest. You
No,
called
that
him
wasn't
my
that
priest.
wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Who was
Relax.
that then?
He is a
Doesn't
priest
matter.
of the helio. He is a priest of the heliocentric paradigm.
He is not a priest of the heliocentric paradigm. He's not my priest.
He is.
Whoever said
So
that.
it depends. It was me. It was me who said that.
Okay,
Flat
thank you.
Earth Solar.
That's right. South Africa. Where are you from, South Africa? May I ask?
From Johannesburg.
Joburg. All right, very cool. I have family that was in Joburg.
But the Flat Earthers have been seeking an interview or a debate with Neil deGrasse since 2015, and he's rejected most of them, saying there's no point in even discussing it. Then he dropped the mic and said that shit is called gravity, and he used his platforms to take jabs at the Flat Earthers without ever engaging with the Flat Earthers.
He should engage. I totally agree.
He has been on most television shows talking about how retarded Flat Earthers are and how they're actually not even worth debating. So you're quite flawed in your assumption that he's not a proponent of anti-Flat Earth. He definitely is. He knows that he doesn't have the evidence, which is why he won't go into a debate and just simply demolish someone. Because if he had it, what would he be scared of? He is never.
Oh, that's funny.
He's never once taken a debate. No. Like the room's already alluded, no one here in this room cited Jaren. I brought up Jaren saying, isn't it quite interesting how one observation could cause you to forget about the other 900 proofs that you have that completely destroy that narrative? And Jeranism and them, their trip was cut short. And I'm not sure if you've seen Space Buster's rebuttal to Jeranism's information. Space Busters is actually friends with Jeranism, so he does it in a really cordial way.
Yeah, that's good.
But in the same way that we don't actually know what's going on in the sky. Sometimes stars appear to be where they are. Sometimes they don't appear to be where they are. We know that there is definitely refraction that exists in the sky when looking at objects.
Right.
We know that simply staring at something and doing an observation is not sufficient. We already know that when we try and triangulate the sun, when you have two observers, you determine a point. When you have three observers, you never get to a concurrent point or a congruent point. When you increase the number of observers looking at the sun, the apparent location of the sun seems to become very erratic.
That's
based
false.
on some of the factors. It's not
I'm
false.
sorry, that is false.
If you take 10 observers on different continents,
They did an experiment where they had like 20 observers, and it was extremely consistent. So that is false. Plus, you have no one in Flat Earth I know of has done that. You can prove me wrong by posting a video where you can show the erratic position of the sun from multiple observers.
It's been demonstrated since 2015, but most of those videos have been removed by YouTube and by other nefarious people.
That's convenient. All right.
No, it's incredibly inconvenient. It's incredibly inconvenient. But the proof has been done, or the evidences have been done, that this position of the sun in the sky is a phenomenon. And it's not a true physical, tangible object that you could measure toward or measure to. Even elevation heights and refraction and glare and all these other factors, even when you use filters, you still get varied results in terms of sun speed and all these things. So we know that the sun is definitely more of a phenomenon than a physical, tangible something. What Space Busters tried to allude is when you think of a concert and the guy on the stage is playing his guitar and his guitar is plugged into an amp. Now, what is light? Light is it's a wave, it's a frequency. So if you think of the guy standing on the stage,
Can I say something before you go on a monologue?
I'm busy making a point. Do you have attention?
No, your point is too long. It takes you too long and you're drifting away.
He's seeking truth, dude. Truth doesn't come.
He's taking a bit long. Can we get to it? No offense.
All right, guys.
Can I summarize your point? Can I help you?
You don't know what I'm going to say.
Just take a
guys.
You're going to say flat Earth never changes their mind. Once you go flat, you never go back. And that's it.
Incorrect.
This is your point.
Incorrect. I was busy talking about a musician on a stage with a guitar.
I'd like to hear this analogy, please.
Right.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Regroup, please stop interrupting.
Hey, group. Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it, man.
So Space Busters goes through the information showing how light is actually like it's analogous to a sound wave. And when you talk about a musician on a stage playing his guitar, and his guitar is plugged into an amplifier, and the amp is then connected to speakers around the stadium. Everyone in the stadium is hearing the sound coming to them through the speakers wherever they're positioned in the stadium. But the guitar is actually on the stage. Now, it's the same sort of thing with the sun phenomenon, that we know there is a source of this sun phenomenon, but yet it has the potential to almost manifest as either an apparent sun or to be in places that we wouldn't think it should be, like the impossible eclipse, the Selenelian, where you see the sun and the moon both above the horizon.
It's not.
We're told that it's actually below. It's called the impossible eclipse.
Right, but it's not actually.
It's not my name. It's what it's called, because both the sun and the moon are above the horizon, but the sun is said to be below the horizand, and it just appears to be above the horizon at that
that's
point.
just refraction. All right, it's just refraction.
So
can I?
If
no
that
one
guy
wants
is standing on the stage playing his instrument,
Flat Solar, you gotta wrap it up, bro. Come on.
Yeah, and you're hearing the music everywhere in the stadium. Is it possible that the sun can also be visible anywhere in the stadium because of the ability of sound waves to transfer or propagate?
It's not only not possible, it is known to be not the case. It's not as if we are unaware of the position of the sun at any point on any given day. We know where the sun is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every second of every day. There is something looking at the sun. Every person on Earth can see the sun. If it's directly overhead, you've got minimal amount of distortion, minimal amount of refraction, and everyone can see where the sun is. The sun is not mysterious. The sun is mysterious in that nothing's actually hit it, because nothing could survive hitting it. But you can get close enough to you get burnt up and find out what the sun is, which people have done. All right. And so if the sun has an apparent size or apparent position, that's only the case at sunset or sunrise when there's maximum amount of refraction. But the sun's position is not mysterious. It's not immaterial. You can't have the result. You can't have like a sound wave with no speakers. You can't have something that just appears in the sky that is immaterial. How can an immaterial thing produce a material effect? Jaren, when he was in Antarctica, and anyone can do this, he gets a magnifying glass and he burnt a hole in a piece of paper from Antarctica, live right there on camera. So it is a physical object. It's not something that's nebulous and unknown, and we don't know what it is, and it could be this and it could be that. We know what it is, and we know where it is. So
I think that immaterial.
You know, it's a nuclear reactor in the sky made out of gas. So what do you know?
The problem is because it's so hot, you can't actually hit it, but you can get close enough to figure out what it is. It is a physical object. I mean, I'm not denying we were just talking. Our South African friend there just said that it's not a material object.
Yeah.
What if it's something immaterial shining through something material?
What if?
Hold on.
What is it?
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't listening in the specificities of what these guys were talking about, so I don't want to necessarily just ride in on the conversation. But I don't know. It's pretty funny to think that you guys actually think that you know what the sun is, and it's this hydrogen balloon in the sky that's sort of been exploding for a billion years or so.
And mocking it and saying it's a balloon and whatever doesn't change that. No,
and yet
it doesn't.
you comport with the scientific method, right? You say things unscientific, and you think that is scientific. I think you're dealing with two religions inside of you at the moment, man. There's one of that's Christian projection. Faith, and there's one of but science is a religion. I just don't think you guys identify.
What my Christian faith does is my Christian faith stops me from being an a-hole. Okay, my human nature gets close. My human nature pushes right up against the edge, but my Christian faith stops me from going over the edge.
Yeah, but
it's the only thing that stops me from going over the edge because I'm not.
Thank you, Red Cloud. Thank you.
The purpose of science, in and of itself, is in order to basically fracture man from nature and allow and make permissible, moral, ethical, rational reasons why man can torture nature. That's what science does. It has a sort of a modality by which it purports to operate in the world. It's just that people think it's good, essentially, is what's kind of going on. It's like anyone else who might sort of look in on the Catholic religion and then have its problems with it. But the people inside the Catholic religion think it's all rosy. Science has got its major problems, man. And it's actually moved the dial of what human beings deem acceptable to treat the world and other beings. It's moved that dial so much towards the darker side that I just don't think you guys are realizing it.
Did you delete your comment on Jaren's video, by the way, Wixie? Did you delete it already? Because it would be embarrassing to say what you just said, having left that comment.
I posted that comment, dude.
Well, it's just bizarre that you would say what you just said.
Chill out, dude, for a second.
But he posted a horrible comment on Jaren's video and is now trying to take the moral high ground.
Okay, Rick, did you get the comment?
Yeah, dude, I've already posted it in the live stream, and I bloody
you did.
I've tagged Red Cloud twice with the comment.
All right, thank you.
I don't understand why he's saying that.
Because I'm not looking.
I'm running away with it.
Sure, can you read it?
Well, now we really want to hear about this comment.
Yeah.
I gotta hear it now.
Because is it edited? He's fully edited it.
It must be good. Considering the reaction, it must be good.
It's probably like Bruss is a bad actor, and his psychoanalytic skills are terrible, or something. I think I said.
Yeah.
Where?
The bad actor.
Where is it?
And it's.
Right there. Bruss.
So you're referring to Jaren
with zero psychoanalytical skills, analytic skills.
Because during that course of that video, so I will say I did actually put in something probably a little bit more.
And they took it out.
Like bigger. Are you referring to the first one, man? Because that first one was deleted within about a minute.
It could be. I did see it. Yeah, I mean, it could have been. Maybe that's the one I was reacting to.
You must have been there at exactly the same time and seen it come up live, because it literally got deleted within a minute or two.
It's possible, man. It's possible. Here's the thing, Risky. It's yeah. Go on. Go ahead.
The point is, man, throughout the course of that video, Jaren's actually doing a lot of what you do. I perceive as the problem, and it's this sort of. I mean, I just relate it back to communistic thinking, essentially group-based guilt. And I know. Hey, it's a bit funny to think that you do something that you think you don't do. But Jaren is basically coming up with explanations.
Stop interrupting, Red. Jesus Christ.
That's all right. It's all right. Jaren's coming up with reasons, right, and then conveying this in a public set forum in order to explain the phenomenon of why flat earthers exist. That's what that comment was. That's the retaliation there. He is lambasting a whole group of people, right? With different, like when he was on that side of the fence, and now he's pretending to do all this psychoanalytics to convey to Globers that, feel sorry for the flat earthers. I mean, this is the reason why they think the way they think. And they were so poorly sort of, like, I get where he's coming. They were so redundant though in like their explanation. I mean, I can't even recall one of them being sort of particularly good at all.
But can I ask you, what does bother you exactly about this video that promotes you to act in a bad way?
You think I acted in a bad way? This is a retaliation.
I don't know. Red said the comment
is being met with what you're calling bad behavior. This is a critique of how that gentleman is purporting to present this side of the argument. It's just really bad, man. It's bad faith in every way.
I didn't see the comment, to be honest. I'm just asking in general, what provoked
Well, I'm going to let you know, man. Someone's clutching their pearls over here on the comment that was made, and now everyone's sitting here going, "Oh, you made a bad comment." And this is what you're latching onto, but you don't actually even know the content of the comment.
If you open a video, it will only delete live if you refresh the page. It won't just vanish off the page. It'll only delete if you refresh the page. It can't pull it directly off a comment can't be pulled off the video. All right. Let's put it like this: if you leave a comment and I open that page and see that comment, it could be deleted 10 seconds later, and it will still remain there as far as I can see it, unless I refresh the page, and then it will be gone. That's also what to do with it.
Also, it might be that the comment appears in Jaren's panel for approval, so you will see it. Anyone else will not see it until he approves it or something.
No, the comment's lost. I went looking for it. I haven't got any of that in my YouTube history. I'm not really willing to go any more deeper into this. It took me about 5 minutes to find that one. And I think this is actually a pretty... It
wasn't even a bad comment, really.
This is a mundane conversation at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got pearl clutches. We've got pearl clutches around the place, right? Trying to point out who's the bad guy.
Right, dude. If you insult people and then they react and you call them pearl clutches. All right.
Dude, I don't know what else to say to you, bro.
Well, as you said earlier, Red, he's simply defending the topic. And if you're getting triggered by the topic that he's defending, he's not attacking you. He didn't say anything negative about anyone in the room. So I just find it hilarious that the Globers are always the ones to say, "Oh, flat Earth can't change their minds."
Well, you said you would die on this hill.
Let me finish. We're the only ones who ever have changed our minds because we were all raised on a globe.
I've heard that. Yeah. Okay. So you are now going to say that now you're a flat earther, you're going to die on that hill.
No. We had to look at the information logically and form a conclusion. And another really great point that Spacebusters raised about the whole Jeranism situation is that he's committing the either-or fallacy. And the either-or fallacy occurs when someone is presented with only two options and they must choose one. So if I say to you there's only A or B, and there cannot be C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and I tell you that there's only A or B, you have two options which appear to be mutually exclusive. However, additional logical analysis can reveal a third or more options are possible. Common forms of the either-or fallacy include false dilemma, false dichotomy, and binary thinking. So Jeranism is in a situation where something didn't fit his previously assumed belief, and therefore he feels compelled to pick only the other option, which is B. And
do you have a previously saying
is there an option C or an option D or an E or an F or G up to Z? Is there any other possible explanation? And committing the either-or fallacy says there are only two binary options, that it can only be flat according to an AE projection, or it must be globe.
What about the one that it fit? How about if it fit one of the A or the B? It fit it.
It's already been falsified. Sorry.
What if you go to a certain place and you make about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 predictions, and then every one of those predictions are confirmed by one side and falsified by another side? What are you supposed to do then? What is Jaren supposed to do? I think the guy just realized,
dude,
it was bad enough that he saw the sun in the south.
This dude loves Jaren, man. Big fanboy. I hope you donated this week, brother.
That was stupid.
Like, no one actually cares about what Jaren's position is.
You don't now.
No, I never did.
Nah, dude, I never followed that guy.
You know what? Are you gonna let me finish, Red, before you interrupt? Like what I was gonna say.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Sure. But as has already been explained, we look at content,
You guys,
not the
please
individual.
pay attention. Beastclose was in the middle of speaking.
I was just trying to finish. Like, I just want to make a point here.
Go ahead.
Just because someone at the tip of the spear of so-called the flat Earth movement decides to change his mind for who knows what reason, we can only speculate. Other than, okay, I saw the sun 24 hours in the sky. Okay, great. When does that ever prove what the shape of the ground is?
Because that's, first of all, that is not the only observation they did. Again, that isn't the only observation they did. They did at least 5. You'd have to go and find out exactly what they are, because I can't think of them. But they did at least 5, including measuring the curvature of the Earth, which was just talked about in a live stream a couple of days ago, as I mentioned before. But you're still saying they only did 1 observation. Why?
I didn't say that. I didn't say they only did 1 observation.
You said that you based it on 1 observation. You're saying that all of the evidence that you believe you have is negated by Jaren going down to Antarctica and seeing 1 thing. But it isn't just 1 thing. The second thing about that is for 9 years straight, flat earthers have said the AE map is the shape of the Earth. Nope. They use the azimuthal equidistant. You saying no, it is extremely dishonest. Because when anyone debates any flat earther,
you're strawmanning the entire flat Earth community. There's lots of people.
No, you're just trying to get out of it.
Hold on, dude.
You're trying to get out of it. They did the experiment in Antarctica specifically because.
Are you going to let me explain a different side that you may not have heard?
Yeah, go ahead.
How about the fact that all maps are based off of the graticule, right? Stars in the sky, and that the AE map, the projection, is literally it's a globe projection. It's a projection of the spherical coordinate system. And Jaren was told multiple times before the trip, over the years, by Whitsitt, by Alan, by Shane, by multiple people in the community, but he had a hill to die on. He was like, nope, it's the only way. It's the only way that Earth is flat is with this AE map. But there's been tons of people in the community who have said over the years, including Geo, who was like, yo, this map seems a little suspect, that they're just basically pointing it out and saying, like, this is the flat Earth map. Like, there's been tons of communities. Yeah, but there's been tons of communities like 24/7, right? Other places where they say, like, yeah, it's not a map. It's not the flat Earth map, right? Because it is just a projection.
So, Red, can you admit that you were wrong, or that you will retract your statement? Can you be intellectually honest and do that right now?
I have been intellectually honest, but I won't be pushed into giving an answer that you require of me and then labeling that as intellectually honest.
No, it's just a concession.
I'll be intellectually honest. No, I will not concede. No, I will not concede. Flat Earth. I will not conform to what your idea of what an honest statement is. If I say what is true and you don't believe that it's honest, that doesn't matter. It is still true. The flat earthers said that for 9 years.
It's an objective concession, Red. All you have to do is be honest with yourself. It's objective that you were wrong about that. It's not my opinion.
It is not objectively true that I was wrong about that.
You say that the flat earthers never accepted anything except the AE map. Dude, you literally just said that, and then he just proved to you. Okay, I think you're
sorry, dude, you got to listen to what I'm saying rather than put words in my mouth.
Red Clap, this is fundamentally pointing out the discrepancy between the 2 different groups and the way that they think about other people.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is indicative of you. Yeah, this is indicative of you finding basically the most popular voices within a group and then labeling the entire group with that particular orientation.
I'm very
Rixky.
Very poor.
Okay,
very poor.
Right.
Almost like Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Almost like an NDT.
What do you?
Listen.
All right. I'm sorry. Did you just call me an NPC?
Hold on. No. Just hold on.
Where's my Australian?
Let's chill out for a second. Let's go
South
back.
African friend. Hang on. Wait. My
He said NDT, dude. He said NDT.
Okay, good. I was going to say, you call him NPC. I'm far from an NPC. If you've seen the movie, has anyone seen the movie Jumanji, the second one? They had an NPC in that, and it was kind of fun.
Are you okay, bro? I just want to reset the conversation, Red, real quick. Let's just chill out.
Sure.
All right.
That's like the 3rd time you've gotten freaking
hold on, Amphibious. Hold on.
I'm not that triggered, but dude.
Okay.
What you said
It's just
earlier,
conversation, man.
what you said earlier about how flat earthers hold this AE map right above their heads and say this is the Earth. Okay, that's not every flat earther. Can you please retract your statement?
I'll do that because that will be honest. It is not every flat earther.
Thank
you.
you.
You can go back and find tons of recordings of me saying that that's not the true map of the Earth.
Yeah, I will say that Geo has been one that has doubted that. What I'm saying though is the motivation behind the final experiment was, for example, in 200 Proofs, Eric Dubé's video, which is one of the main things that kicked off the entire movement, that it stated that the Antarctic sun is impossible. Also, in the AE map, it also says that the Antarctic 24-hour sun is not possible. On the map itself, it states that. At the first Flat Earth conference, they had flat Earth models, and they were the AE map with the dome over them and animated sun and moon. Okay? If you look at some photographs, you'll see a long white-haired guy selling those maps.
Even if you are correct in this statement, right? Even if you are correct, the ability to change one's mind given new evidence, which is basically one of the tenets of the so-called scientific method, is permitted, right? So, I mean, you can say exactly what you're saying, but if we shift, if more analysis comes in, we can change our ideas.
Okay.
But you know,
what map are you
changing your idea?
Not right, at all. What map are you currently going with?
Can I say something?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Even if you throw the map away and you say that flat earthers didn't claim this map, it is not about the map. It is about the fact that if you imagine a flat plane, you must have the sun in certain places and it cannot go around you for 24 hours.
And can I say something? So this is analogous to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay, so you have someone mainstream, very high visibility, go on a TV show and say you can't see the curvature from where Felix was, however high that jump was, and then you can dismiss that. It's like.
Can you strawman what I said?
You. Now, you mentioned Jaren. Just one moment, regroup if you don't mind. Red Cloud, I know you mentioned Jaren, but what about, and I think that's okay. You're entitled to find out what people think about Jaren. What do you think about Austin not flipping? And who do you think is a better, who can steel man the globe better, Jaren or Austin?
Austin a million times is better than Jaren on every level of debating and knowledge on this topic. I think it's pretty safe to say.
That's when I started about A-level students versus C-level students.
Well,
Jaren always came across as a C-level student versus like an Austin who's an A-level student.
Yeah. Okay. That's all right, Gio.
That was flat Earth
in a debate.
Point.
In a debate, Austin tried to talk about photography. I can tell you that isn't necessarily true in the subject matters that I am an expert on. So.
But this is exactly why I brought up the analogy of a stadium where the musician's standing on the stage, so we know where the guitar is, but there's speakers behind my head, and I'm hearing the music coming from the speaker behind my head, but I know that the musician's on the stage in front of me, but I'm hearing the music behind me. Now, light behaves like a wave, and waves can be propagated, so it's not absolutely outside the realm of possibility that the sun is creating a resonance or some sort of experience whereby it feels like the sun is behind me, but we know that the sun is actually in front of me. And that is exactly why I brought up this concert environment, because it just shows that there are sometimes things outside of your purview. And if you're going to stick to the either or fallacy, where it has to be A or B, and never consider or even entertain the idea that there could be a C or a D or an E or an F, then you are committing a fallacy. And it's what Jaren's done, where he said it has to be A or B. It's not A, so therefore it's B. without ever even entertaining the idea there could be a C or a D.
Perfectly encapsulated.
Can I offer Red Cloud an alternative? I just want to go for a C option. The Bible says that God spoke the world into existence, or the earth into existence, right? And the sun is a big bright light in the sky, and we have a phenomenon of sound through sonoluminescence, that whatever that phenomenon is, basically sound becoming light. So is this not an option that we can consider?
It's definitely an option you can consider. But
cool. So we don't need a big nuclear explosion in the sky. We can just say potentially that this is a what would it be, like a vibrational sound sort of phenomenon that focuses in at a point in the sky, and it's just that's where this constant explosion or this constant sort of source of light is coming from, essentially.
Has there been any
but
has there been any scientific observation that can confirm that hypothesis? Has anything been done that can confirm that can?
I can create sonoluminescence in a tank, right? I can create sonoluminescence in a tank. That's more scientific than the notion of an exploding gas ball in space in a vacuum.
I hardly think so. I hardly think so. Because you're not doing direct. Because you're not even looking at the sun. You're trying to figure out what the sun is without looking at the sun.
You're reproducing the phenomenon. No, you're reproducing the phenomenon.
Yes, you're trying to do anything you can to find an experiment that can superficially mimic what the sun looks like instead of actually looking at the sun.
And you haven't even got that, man. So
what do you mean you haven't even got that? We have objects that we can see the sun 24 hours. Its position is not unknown. We've sent stuff out there to find out what it is. Okay, to get a closer observation, as close as we possibly can get without getting burnt to a crisp. All right, we've done that. Compared to that, what you've done.
Jump in.
How is that even a comparison?
Wait.
How can you think that is a comparison? I really would love to know.
Does anyone else want to jump in?
Nah, I'm good with this guy.
No, it's annoying.
Created the sun, bro.
So, for example, what he's trying to explain to you is that you create a model. If you can demonstrate something in a scientific environment, it is more valid if you can recreate something in a controlled environment where you're controlling all the variables. So creating sonoluminescence, where you cause a air bubble to collapse, and the moment that the air bubble collapses through sound, it actually creates thousands of degrees of heat and creates light through sound, and they can recreate this in a lab environment, is already miles ahead of you presuming we've got nuclear fusion of hydrogen turning into helium and then somehow never losing any mass and just this perpetual nuclear fission reactor floating in a vacuum, where in a vacuum gases fill the available volume. They don't condense and fall in on themselves to create sufficient pressure to force
how many
hydrogen.
fallacies in a row can you use?
It's just
Occam's razor.
It's not
Occam's razor is about the simplest explanation.
It's not
generally the most.
It's not Occam's razor.
Can you guys both stop interrupting, please? Thank you.
Well, let's all try to keep our points concise.
It is pointless. Wait.
He was explaining a very good point.
It's quite a big point, but
I grant him his imaginary physics point.
What imaginary physics? What imaginary physics exactly are you referring to that he presented? So just an ad-hom? You got one, or is it just an ad-hom? You're just trying to get out there?
Very quickly, he hasn't taken the second step, but the second step is correlating what the sun does with what sonoluminescence does. He's saying it looks very similar, has a similar sort of effect, but what he's not done is he's actually not looked at the sun to see if that's what the sun is doing.
Great, and you claim to be a religious person, a Christian, and you're not really following the Bible, so you're cooked.
I don't think so, Rixie. I really don't. And my Christian faith prevents me from retaliating. It sucks.
Okay. let's say what he said, I grant him that. Okay, but even before that, when you say flat Earth, you actually need to say what do you mean by flat Earth. And never ever I hear anyone is actually making a claim about whether does it have an edge or doesn't have an edge. How does the objects move? Because we observe them, we know them, we measure them. You must have a claim about flat Earth, or it's the other way around.
Does the
This
universe
is what
have an edge?
Jaren is telling.
What kind of claim do you want?
Well, he wants to know what flat Earth model where we're talking about. Infinite plane. And great question, Taylor. Infinite plane, the biblical model with the dome, or the flat Earth society. For regroup.
Even before that, flat is a relative term. Okay, things can have a surface roughness and can still look flat. Okay, if you want to say that the Earth is flat, you need to say where does it end relative to the flatness to claim it is flat. You need to actually give a measurement of the whole diameter of the Earth to say that 2 mile mountain is relatively flat. You understand that?
I think this is a pretty redundant point you're kind of going to, but if you, Taylor, if you want to roll with it.
I was just gonna say, do you need to measure the universe or go to the end of the universe to be able to explain what it is? And also, the universe is flat. They say the universe is flat. So does it have an edge?
Okay.
What does that mean, Taylor?
Whoa.
That means it's Euclidean, not that it's two-dimensional.
Okay, if you're going to be running away, so say in advance I'm running away, I cannot answer your simple question. What do you mean by flat? If you cannot answer the simple question, what do you mean by flat Earth theory, is you don't have a flat Earth theory. Which of those? Can you be honest?
I'm just saying, you still claim things that you've never been to or don't know about.
Yeah, did you hear her point?
Your point very succinctly.
Did you hear her point? That if someone's going to claim outer space or all of this, that just to relate to your point that they would have to, in terms of relating to your logic, it's hard to say because I wouldn't say this logic myself, but that you would have to get to the end of the universe. Did you hear her point? Have you gotten to the end of the universe to claim that there's a universe, that there's an outer space out there? Regroup. If you want to make the correlative.
Okay, so let's get back to the start because you don't understand it. I know it's too complicated for you.
Could you respond to her point in good faith?
The globe side.
Hold on. Could you respond to her point?
Shut up for a second.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's worthy of anyone here.
We want to be intellectually stimulated. We don't want just chaos and people jumping around and all kinds of like side points and stuff. So it's intellectually stimulating to actually hear the response. So you made a point. She made a rebuttal. Could you please respond to that point so we can hear the continuation of it?
Right. She made irrelevant rebuttal, okay? Because we don't understand the basics. So let's return to the basics. When you say flat, what do you mean?
I could ask you the same thing about your universe model.
Correct.
It's not a globe.
Okay.
It's not.
What is going on right now? The globe has evidence.
Are you not understanding her point? Or are you choosing not to
understand that
point?
she's a fucking cunt that cannot handle
we have to give context around the flat Earth before we say there's something called level, and everything is measured against level, either above or below sea level.
Hold on.
You say, no, we have to talk about the edge of the Earth, the flat edge. Now, when she brings up the universe and says, at what point is the universe the edge of the universe? And should you have to go to the edge of the universe before you start talking about the universe, you say irrelevant. And it's verbatim what you've just asked of the flat Earth, but we've changed the word flat Earth to universe.
No. We're just
going
to
saying
leave
it's
him
a non
alone.
sequitur.
Taylor, you didn't deserve that, just for the record.
I don't know who Regroup is. I disavow Regroup. I've never met him before, never seen him before. Thank you.
Give him 5
All
minutes. I'd kick him. But give him 5 minutes. If he doesn't come back on the mic and immediately sort of, withdraw that comment.
Bro, he's been doing the exact same thing for months.
Yeah,
Like, he'll
yeah.
come in, he'll
Yeah,
act
well,
civil.
then-
He's been modded beyond belief. It's just one of these people that just can't do it. So
Yeah.
So triggered and so emotional.
Okay, can I have a quick? If he's still listening, can I have a quick word? Regroup, dude. Don't ever do that again. That's beyond the pale, man. Beyond the pale. Don't.
Thank
it
you.
doesn't look good. It's a bad look for anyone.
It's okay.
No, especially to a woman.
No, I'm saying it's okay. He's been dealt with. Like, some people just are not, not capable of having a good conversation. It's fine.
Thank you, Red Cloud.
But Taylor's point is very clear that do you have to know everything about something to model it? Would you agree with that?
Negative.
Dazzle, you said yes?
No, so I think Taylor's analogy is invalid because we don't. The answer is right. We don't really know what the universe is fully. We're still learning a lot. There's a lot to learn, but we do know what the shape of the Earth is. That is not in dispute. That is actually physically measured.
No, that's the whole point of the discussion, dude.
It's not in dispute.
Around?
Listen to all the people in this server, bro. It's not in dispute.
So what I'm saying is the universe and the Earth are correlated, right?
If it's not in dispute, Azza, why are you here? Just out of curiosity.
I'm here because there are people here that spread misinformation to people and make them believe things that aren't true. And I just want to make sure that people get both sides of the story, right?
So you have a righteous cross you're trying to bear, like, oh, these people are spreading misinformation.
He's a priest, and he's found the savages, and he's going off to the savage lands, and he's going to battle the savages with his godlike powers of intuition.
Yeah, maybe we can shift back to the science. I had a question. I noticed, Red Cloud, you mentioned that you are an expert in photography, or at least have a lot of experience, and you mentioned the Himawari. I do have some questions for you. So I looked up the Himawari, and you're right, it is far enough. It is approximately 22,000 miles away from the equator. So that would give us enough distance from the Earth to actually take a picture. So I'm looking here, and it says that it uses a high-resolution 16 spectral band instrument, which captures visible and infrared. So I analyzed some of the photos in my program. I'm going to post them in the live stream text. Maybe you can show me where I'm wrong and maybe what I'm doing wrong. No pressure.
Are you downloading the JPEGs from the website?
Yeah, I went to the largest source. I think it was, I forgot the resolution, but it was massive.
It'll have a dot at the end. It'll have 3 letters or 4. What are those 3 letters?
Oh, the extension? Yes. I don't remember now, but it was directly from Himawari's website. It was likely a JPEG.
It'll be a JPEG, yeah. You can't do it. I don't know if it's true that you can't do an analysis on a JPEG. You shouldn't do analysis on a JPEG. But
but tell us about your analysis anyway. That will be interesting because we see these images posted without context a lot, and we're really good to see what it is that you're asking about these images every time you post them.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not sure if Red Cloud's seen them, but essentially what I've taken is several photos from far enough away that claim to be actual photos using an optical instrument, right? And not a composite of images that are stitched together. So I've been looking at optical photos of Earth and spheres, and I'm finding an anomaly with the Himawari. So what I'll do is I'll post it for you to take a look, and maybe you can see what I'm seeing.
So
no rush.
Just for clarification, I'll just say this. So there's a term photograph, there's a term image. All right, an image is not necessarily a photograph, but a photograph is an image. That's it. So if you say image, you can say image or you can say photograph if it's a photo. Okay. So if I say I took an image of my wife, then that's a photograph of my wife. All right, whether I took it with a camera or I took it with my phone that stitches together 47 different photographs and composites them together, it's still a photograph of my authentic wife.
What about an image from your mind?
Yeah, there you go. That's not a photograph.
Being the root word of imagination,
image.
Yeah.
That is imagination.
There you go. So there's a big difference between the composites that use and stitch together just images, and the difference between what the composites that most space agencies use, where they just put together data and basically make an art piece.
If I may, Amphibie, I'm going to push back a little bit on that, because there are two types. There's several types of composite. You can do a composite of the same photograph. That's what the iPhone does. You take one photograph. It's actually taking like 47 different photographs. That's one photograph. The other type of photograph is
in live mode. What do you mean? I have to ask. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, without live mode, not in live mode.
So if you have live mode off, it will take 40-second still images.
It would take a bunch of, I don't know what the thing is, maybe 37. I watch every Apple keynote, but I've forgotten which one it is, because they introduced what they call computational photography about 4 or 5 years ago. And it stacks, it takes the multiple images, stacks the images, and creates the picture out of that. Okay, that's still a photograph, though. I could classify that as a photograph because it outputs a JPEG, or it outputs whatever the file format, WebP.
Yeah, I can accept that. I can accept that as a.
But the second type of composite is when you don't have a field of view, and so you take your phone and you put on pano, and then you hit the button and you scan left to right, and then you're done. You hit finish. Okay.
Wait.
That's also taking multiple pictures and then composite them together like the original Blue Marble.
Wait, I thought I heard the actual person who made that composite say that it was based on data.
Well, I mean, yes. So right.
Not
but
images.
Okay, but images are.
It's not like he stitched together a panorama. So is there a third option for composite where he just takes math and makes an art piece?
Right, but what he would term data would be images, because images are data. Unless you're taking film photograph, that's not data. That's
they're not.
Photograph. It's physical, but every photograph is comprised of data.
Yeah,
that's what he's referring to.
The nebulae that NASA puts out and everything, like so far away, right? Supposedly captured by the Hubble telescope or something like that. Yeah. So the data that telescope collects isn't, to my understanding, isn't necessarily an image. Am I correct?
It's what they do is they enhance certain frequencies and certain levels, and so you get those bright, amazing photographs. When you take a picture of the sky, it looks a bit dull, but they can take out various frequencies of the light and pull that up. You can do that in Photoshop. You can take a photograph and pull out.
I'll have to look into it more. I don't want to get into the weeds anymore. We can go back. We can go back to the foundational question. Yes. And I don't know if he posted those Himawari images or composites. I don't know if he posted those yet, but we can go back to talking about those.
I did. They're already there for everyone to examine. I'm just at the Himawari website trying to download their largest file.
Okay. Yeah, Robert Simon.
So can you short circuit this and allude to what actually we're looking for?
Yeah, what's the issue there?
Okay, I'll drop it one more time. One moment.
The land masses are in the wrong proportions. Because that's
the
function of the distance.
Near my house is not present, or
no. You'll see what the photos I'll drop. Just give me one quick moment.
Because that's a function of the distance and then also the focal length. Actually, it's mainly it's both of those.
I mean, there is one thing that I have seen that's very suspect with the Himawari, and it's that picture of the backside of the moon and then the Earth in the background, and then you see it rotating. Yeah, and then you see it rotating, and then the clouds don't change.
That's Discover, I think, isn't it? Not Himawari.
I was going to say,
it is Discover. That's right. Yeah, how come the clouds don't change after a period of? Yeah, there it is. Yo, my boy. Why aren't the clouds changing? Isn't that a periodicity of like every hour or what?
And I put the funny one in with the guy's face on it.
Mexican guy. So, he passed away. That guy passed away.
You're a photo expert, right, Red Cloud? Yes. Why aren't the clouds changing?
Let's see. What was the
every hour? You see how it moves?
Probably represents an hour of.
Tick, tick. It's 1 hour. So why aren't the clouds moving?
because clouds don't move that fast when you're looking at the moon from that distance. You look up at the sky; sometimes they move. The clouds do.
Bro,
I can see that cold front in Antarctica moving. So you've got to look for fast-moving things.
Why do you ask questions if you're just going to laugh when you get answers?
Okay, because when you stare at the sky for an hour, clouds move, dog. Come on.
Yes, and how far do they move, dog? Mile, 2 miles, 3 miles in an hour? What's the fastest cloud? Because you can calculate this stuff, dude. What are you even talking about? You can calculate what are the fastest clouds and how far do they move in an hour?
All right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'll pull up a Doppler radar from a weather report, and you'll see it like a live weather report, and those clouds are moving pretty fast within a couple of hours, bro. So
not only do they move, they dissipate. You'll see clouds just disappear. So how could that just stay the still image like that?
Yeah,
the cognitive dissonance is strong.
How big is one pixel on that screen? 500 or 600 kilometers, something like that, or 100 kilometers?
No, not that far.
Dude, these excuses are crazy.
About a mile. These excuses are not crazy. You're asking a question of someone who knows a little bit, and then you're just mocking the answer.
Yeah, well, if you were honest, you'd be like, "Oh, that is."
And then you're labeling my answers as dishonest. So you're calling me dishonest as well.
There's no reasonable answer, and you're not even coming to terms with that.
Can I ask you a question? How do you expect Neil deGrasse Tyson? How do you expect Neil deGrasse Tyson to debate you? Would you just laugh at his face when he gives you the answer?
That animation that Geo debate poorly is the answer.
That animation that Geo posted has got cloud dissipation in it. With the one with the guy's face. There's an example of cloud dissipation in that.
Oh, Geo posted the real one. So let's look at the real one.
There you go.
Okay. Where's the cloud dissipation?
There's a cold front passing through Antarctica. That clearly changes as well.
Okay.
Point it out.
If you look at the there's a little area with two dots of cloud in it. As the moon gets to the middle, at the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock position, there's a region with two clouds in it. If you can play it, one of the clouds dissipates during the rotation, the smaller of the two areas.
What time? Okay, all right. It's supposed to be an hour every tick, right? Every time it moves. So that's what, 8 hours at least? And none of those clouds have dissipated or moved? Come on, guys.
If your discernment isn't like ringing all kinds of alarms, I feel like you have blinders on and that you are in a religion that you don't want to even question. Just objectively, that's what it feels like.
Do you think it's possible that the amount of times that you've mocked my answers and other people's answers could contribute to that? Do you think that's possible? I haven't mocked anything that you've said, but you've done nothing but mock what I've said.
No one's mocking your answer.
You. Why are you mocking people's answers and then wondering and then being completely confused as to why people are not willing to debate flat earthers that aren't like what you would call anti-flat earthers like MC Toon? Why would you think that people want to debate you?
I'm sorry. Are you talking about a laugh?
You can do better. Yes, you can do better than that.
Can you come up with a specific example of how I mocked you?
You just did.
All right, let's not go back.
You just did. That's why I'm reacting. What do you think I'm reacting for no reason? I'm reacting because you laughed.
Red, can I offer you another branch?
I'm going to say, and they're going to meet myself. Don't expect people to debate you if when you get a debate like this, you just laugh and mock.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was kind of Professor Dave-like. It was kind of Professor Dave-like. One laugh. It was a miniature laugh because my discernment was just like, this guy can't get past his cognitive dissonance. It wasn't an insult. I didn't follow it up with a fucking anything ad hom or anything like that.
Right.
It's all right. He apologized.
All forgiven.
All right.
All is forgiven.
Brett, you said you had a question.
Oh yeah, I was really about.
What is it now?
This one's for Red.
Hold on, Red.
I
was busy raging. I forgot what the question was.
Oh, no, I haven't asked it yet.
He hasn't asked it yet.
Yeah, go on.
So, have you heard of the Lucid Space Telescope?
No, actually, no.
Lucid?
Yesterday I watched a video and apparently we got all these new images back from Lucid.
What is that?
And I was curious what type of data Lucid sent to us, so we have images, if you know what that is.
Okay, so
is it Euclid?
Is it Euclid?
Euclid space yeah, that's what
Yeah.
It's Euclid. Oh, yeah, there you go. It'll autocorrect. So every sensor is looking for different things. So sensors are made to look for different things. So you have ultraviolet sensors, and you have all sorts of different things. Right. So if they depends on what they're scanning for. Right. So the JWST, the Spacey telescope. I don't know why I remember that anagram. That is looking at different things, and Hubble, that's looking at different things than the ones on the ground.
This is all I can find. It's just
yeah, but I'm asking
renditions of it.
specifically about how it takes images.
That specific one, they all take images the same way.
It gathers some data, right? It sends out a bunch of ones and zeros that are recapitulated on someone's computer, and they take that XY coordinate system of blots.
Oh, it's JPL,
and they turn that into an image.
Yeah, it's just they collect.
That's not a picture.
Yes, it is.
That's what a picture is. It's a rendition of a bunch of data.
That's what a picture is.
Okay,
I
just want you to hear what I said and understand what I told you, and you agree to it.
No, because what you're saying is there's not a picture, but it is a picture.
Oh, it is, but it isn't.
No, it is. You're saying it isn't.
It sounds like you're playing semantics a little bit.
God, good grief! You said this isn't an image, and I'm saying it is an image.
Though, right?
To be very, very clear.
Yeah. So no digital image would qualify as a photograph in that scenario. Right. Then they're all the same as the ones coming from the telescope.
So people
if you
are
take film,
taking this data and turning it into an image. Do you agree that there's someone required to make
it? 1 minute spot the difference evaluation of that animation from that Hawaii video.
I saw that.
If you look at those circles, it's radically different topologies of clouds swirling around in those areas all over the place.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say radically, but thanks for the effort, though.
I mean, it is different. They're different.
If you look in the first one, there's 3 clouds in that heart-shaped area. One faint one to the top left. It's disappeared completely in the second one. Look at that green area, that dark area. That's
hold on. Where did this?
All the swirls, all the swirls and everything is completely changed, not just in orientation, in shear. There's a lot of dissipation going on there.
Are we taking
if you care
Pazasi's? Are we taking Pazasi's word for this? Like, how do we know that's not edited?
Well,
obviously, it is. You put circles.
Tell what you do. Tell what you do. Get the animation. Do what I just did. Cut and paste little bits out and see if you get the same thing.
He's looking at the same thing. If he did something
I'm gonna
squirrely, you could find out.
I'm looking at it right now again.
I'm not remotely interested in trying to deceive you that in 1 minute using Microsoft Paint. Really not.
All right.
I must not be zoomed in enough because it doesn't look like it's changing radically at all.
Well, you don't think so? You don't think you can't see swirls and changes in that pattern?
So no, is it turning? It's turning on the surface that they've posted against, right? So
yeah, they're different shapes. If you turn them in the same orientation, side by side, they're different.
Yeah, I can't zoom my phone in enough. I'm sorry.
No, all I've done, trust me, all I did was to control print screen twice, one at either end, and use Microsoft Paint. That's all.
If I was in front of my computer, I could twist the other one and.
I just counted the ticks. It's 20. That means 20 hours have went by, and that is the only difference.
You said before there was no difference.
I don't even see it, honestly. I'm re-looking at the GIF. I don't even see which one he's talking about. I'm looking closely at the cloud.
Sorry.
Yeah, and on that GIF, where's the subsolar point?
They've created an object in a 3D space, planted the clouds onto that, and then rotated the object in 3D space, zoomed out, captured the GIF. And I think what Paz has actually captured here is that, I mean, there is an object in 3D space that is turning. This is how they sort of create the animation, and you would expect it to be upside down.
No, it's not that. There's things missing and things that have changed topology and shape dramatically. Not just and also those 20 ticks can't be 20 hours. There's clearly not.
The claim was it doesn't change at all. It's identical. That was the claim.
That's not
approximately 4 hours. I found the original.
That's not well over 3/4 of a complete revolution, is it? Clearly, because you can see a significant amount of cloud the whole time. There's not 1 tick per hour.
No lightning anywhere. No shadow from the moon. Where's the subsolar point in that globe?
Why would there be a shadow from the moon?
Well, where's the sun in the photo?
What's the duration? What's the duration of the sensor and the the duration of typical lightning strikes.
But none of that.
The
Hold on.
the possibility of photographing a lightning strike is slim.
There's 100 lightning strikes every second.
Could you at least admit, Red Cloud? Now, this doesn't prove one way or the other about the shape, but could you at least admit that this could possibly just be a CGI rendition?
Of course, it could be a CGI rendition.
Okay.
Of course, it could. Yes, I'll concede that. Yeah, it could be completely fake, and yeah.
Okay.
And I want to step back.
The
That's
moon
a
looks.
great.
I'm
That's a
going to
great
say this, even though I'm not a
concession.
teenager.
Not concession, but
The moon looks janky AF.
Thank you for that concession. That's all.
But
I
I don't know.
for, by the way.
But I don't know what the moon should look like from that distance. So how can I really know?
Hey,
I've not been up there.
huge. That's huge for you to admit that it could be. All right?
I appreciate
It
that.
shows. Yeah, it could be. Everyone could say that could be an animation, couldn't it?
It could be, yeah. It could be completely fake. Yes, I agree.
I will
with that.
step back. I will step back and say, what if that image that he posted, the different parts of the clouds, it did change a little bit. All right, and it did go against what we were kind of saying, that they didn't change at all.
Did it change enough? That's a good question. Did it change enough?
Exactly.
That's yeah. Where's Insult guy? Has he gone? Is Insult guy gone?
No, that was the guy who just gave you props.
Retread. Restart. What was his name? Yeah, he's gone.
He has to regroup.
I'm not worried.
No, I was the guy that asked the question though. So
I was going to
a more accurate estimation. That's 6 hours, I reckon. Just looking at the cloud, some of the clouds moving from the edge to the center. Some of the clouds move from the bottom left edge to the center in that sequence, which means it would be 6 hours in the globe model, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the original
6 hours,
source
it should be a
says
lot
it's
more moving. Sorry, go ahead.
The original source says it's 4 hours.
Yeah. So it's
the
definitely
NASA
not
site with these high-res originals, yeah, it's 4 hours. So a cold front in 4 hours is going to move a few hundred kilometers, which is not very far in this image. That's 10,000 kilometers wide. Is that right?
Can you do that in freedom units?
Somebody said I should do it in bananas in the chat.
Sorry, I was just saying that. I'm trying to make light of it because I'm still angry with Restream or whatever his name is. Because Taylor left after she got insulted like that. So I'm kind of mad about that.
Yeah, it's not on, is it?
This is the trouble. People, someone says it's 20 hours, and everyone says, "Oh, it's 20 hours," and it's clearly not 20 hours to start with. Then they go, "Oh, these clouds don't change over 20 hours." How can you believe that?
Well, here's the Weather Channel, and no, it's past 6 hours. Oh, hold on, I didn't copy the right link. That's still a significant amount of change, bro. And you don't see any of that. And this is supposed to be like some high-res Discovery telescope, right? Not impeded by anything in space.
Okay.
Should be able to see a lot more finer details.
What's the resolution of your Weather Channel in kilometers per pixel compared to the images we're looking at from Discover? So your pixel, you look like 1,000 kilometers across there on their image. The Discover image is 10,000. So we're 10 times lower resolution in terms of what we can see on our screens. If you go to the original, which the original images are, they look like they're about at least 4K, right? Resolution. There's a lot of changes. If you watch the northwest coast of Australia, clouds come and go. It's clear that there are things changing.
Another thing I noticed on the GIF from the Discovery is that there's a specular highlight just in the center of the Earth that doesn't move.
Yeah, you'd expect that, though, wouldn't
And what
you?
do you think that? Yeah, the sun's directly behind the camera. That's exactly where the highlight should be.
It's at Lagrange, isn't it?
So does that mean the moon's shadow is directly behind the moon?
Yeah. So wouldn't that make a shadow?
No, because the moon is
where's your
inclined,
shadow?
right?
Where's
and
the shadow
a very
on the
long
Earth?
way away. The moon only casts a shadow on the Earth during eclipses, right? And that doesn't happen all the time. This is not an eclipse. They've got photos of the eclipse, but the moon is actually
makes it an eclipse?
Well, yeah, because they say the moon bobs up and down. It's not. It's consistent.
No, it doesn't bob up and down. It's on an inclined orbit.
The other thing is, if the sun is directly behind the camera,
They
the
can't
shadow of the
explain
moon
it
on
in
Earth
orbit.
wouldn't be visible. That's why people use ring lights, so there's no shadow.
Why haven't we got
I'll send you a link
any
to one where the
footage of an
shadow is
eclipse?
visible.
Okay.
Why haven't we got any footage of an eclipse from space upon the Earth?
Here's
On
one.
the globe?
You know there's one. Here's one. I'll post it for you now.
Oh, is there?
There's
Okay.
there's clips.
Yep.
There's
With the
answers,
same satellite caught the eclipse, right?
You know, it's crazy to think about. It's like we have all these quote unquote high res photos. It's like, why couldn't someone just take a video? Like,
Going
what the
right
fuck?
back to these satellite pictures again that are,
Hey, real quick.
by
let
your
me
own
ask the-
admission, can be faked.
Let me ask the Globers, since you guys did admit, or at least one of you, that the images could have been CGI. Can you also admit that it is possible for these agencies to be deceiving us?
Yeah, so here's the thing about all that. Yes. So if
yes, the answer is yes.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's not really I don't know if you count that as an admission. I don't know anyone who would say, I mean, gosh, if anyone says no, that image couldn't possibly be faked, they're a liar or they're
or the agency's trying to deceive people.
Yeah, not only is the image fake, but they are purposely doing it to fool us.
That's the
And you
overarching
can admit
implication.
that?
Yeah.
And you can admit that.
Yes. Because that's not beyond the realm of reason. That is why flat Earth exists. Because
but all the Globers that I've heard,
this guy's pretty
all the
fair,
Globers
actually.
that
I like
talk
this guy.
cannot admit that.
Well,
They
they're
will never
dishonest.
even touch it.
They're dishonest.
They're being idiots.
Thank you.
Right, because you can't do that. That's not a reasonable position. The reason flat Earth exists is because people feel that they're being deceived. It's not that. That is it. That's it. That's that
and not only
people
that,
think that.
is the globe defenders.
Because we are being deceived.
It is the
no, that's
we are
why
being
we're all
deceived at some
schizophrenics
level.
and have mental disorders.
Right. And then
cold.
when you listen, sorry, continue.
No, I'm just chiming in for no reason. Sorry.
Well, we're all prone. Okay, if you watch the debates right now, go just with a fresh or logged out or whatever. Go to YouTube and look up Trump narcissist, right? Then look up Harris narcissist. Then look up Walz narcissist. Look up Vance narcissist. You'll find everyone is accusing everyone of being a narcissist. Right, everyone.
Right.
Everyone is doing it.
Real quick, Red Cloud. Wait.
Yeah.
I just want to say this. The reason why I brought up the photos in the first place was because of what you said earlier to Flat Earth Solar. When he asked you, how could you empirically prove the Earth to be a globe yourself?
Yeah.
And what did you say?
The first thing I blurted out was balloons.
Right, but before that, you're like, there's thousands of images of Earth from all these space agencies. So now we can throw that claim out the window as proof, correct?
Hold on. Not necessarily. What you got me to concede, even though I don't really call it. Never mind. I'll just say that. What you got me to concede,
even playing field. That's all.
Yes, of course. What anyone should concede is that this could be faked. The point of flat Earth is that people feel like everything is being faked. That's not an unreasonable position, considering that a crap ton of stuff is being faked.
Have you ever been cheated on before?
I'll take the. No, I'm not. I was going to say I take the.
Would you like a chaise lounge, Red Cloud?
A chaise lounge. Oh, what?
Have you ever been lied to and then found out you were lied to?
Oh yeah.
Okay, how would that make you feel in future, encounters with people?
Show him on the dolly where science touched you.
No. Well, I feel
that's not funny.
it is
basically with the vaccination programs.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. That was deeply sus. And there's a bunch of other stuff, man. Come on. I mean, JFK, really?
So is it really
that guy from the?
But is it really so much to consider why people are skeptical of the authority?
No, it's not. It's not unreasonable. That isn't unreasonable.
So we can move on from that point too, then.
Right, but then it's incumbent to get the best evidence. It's incumbent then, if there's something going on like that, then it really has to be watertight evidence that you bring. When you talk about photography, if someone comes in and talks about geology in about an hour, I'll be out because I know diddly jack squat. But if we're talking about photography, that's why I've been yammering on, because it's something I happen to know about. So get the best evidence and show me the best evidence.
You're into history, aren't you, Red Club?
Yeah, but let me tell you this.
Are you familiar with any civilization in the past that's ever purported to tell the truth?
I don't have historical records for the American Indians. They could have been telling the truth.
They're not, like, as far as they're concerned, that wasn't really civilization, right?
Oh, hold on.
These were nomadic people, and they don't qualify as civilization. We class ourselves as living in a civilization, a global
Civilization would mean there's like more than about a dozen people who managed to survive over multiple generations. That's a civilization.
Amen. They're still people.
Because they don't kill themselves within about 20 years. You could consider that a civilization. So not knowing the history of the Native American Indians, then we don't know that they were a truthful nation, truthful people. They may have been. So there you go. That's one example. But the Roman Empire, definitely not. Byzantine, definitely not. Chinese, are you kidding? Every Chinese dynasty wiped out the previous dynasty, so there'd be no record of it. Yeah.
So all I'm suggesting then is, like, if we take historical precedent, it's pretty reasonable to consider that even in our current paradigm, despite all the technology and the claims of telling the truth and all the rest of it, that it's pretty reasonable actually to go looking for where the lies are based on historical precedent.
I would put it in the category of not unreasonable.
Well, but you seem to have
really pedantic.
I don't really want to go into like personal stuff at all, but like it is kind of just like a personal commentary. But I mean, it shouldn't come off offensive. But the thing is, it's just like you seem so flabbergasted by that we don't think the Earth's a globe. Like it just seems like you're like you're getting heated. You're like no. But what I'm saying is, I guess it's just like if you already think the vaccines are there's a deception there and other things like that. Like why would this one have to be so outside of the realm to where it would invoke like the flabbergastedness instead of just realizing that it's one of the of the many possibilities, if you want to put it that way, just generally of things that we could be being lied to about. You may not put the Earth into that category, but why is it so shocking that other people do?
Because I don't think it's something that can be faked. I don't think that it's something that I'm not convinced that the possibility exists that it could all be faked. Just because that's what it is. I'm not convinced of that.
You just got to go take them one by one now.
It's interesting because when you have arguments, right? Often they create more heat than light. Okay, and so it's people enjoy the argument and it gets the blood flowing. So
why do you think it couldn't be faked? I actually think I'm more suspicious. I think you do acknowledge that it can be faked because you've said that footage could be faked. So it's actually I think you're probably pointing out actually how do they keep the lie?
If there's a lie,
most people's big problem, right? Because you've got this conception that it's not possible within this sort of large groups of people to keep keep a lie.
A lie that big for that long.
But that's a presumption, right? Like how can you test that claim?
Yeah,
how would you go
one thing that requires
you've only got one example, right, of a civilization like that.
Right.
So you can't really test against anything. So you really got to come to this in and of yourself and your own sort of experiences.
It's just a matter of looking at the preponderances, you know what I'm saying, of evidence, and looking at the whole big picture, and then not necessarily discounting people who have evidence. Because I don't say to Dr. Zach, you know who that is, that his evidence was he falsified it. You know who Dr. Zach is, right? He's got a little cartoon character as an icon thing.
No, but
okay,
cool.
He's in Europe and he did some observations. I don't think, that's all fake and he was lying and he was CGI and the boats are all. I don't think that. I think he's got.
How did they convince people to drink the Kool-Aid about 3 or 4 years ago, man? So this is the thing, right? Like I was asking myself the question. This is what made me tip over. Oh shit, they can keep that lie at vast scales.
You mean with Brandon, or you mean the Jibby?
Yes.
Yeah, the jab. That's the drinking of the that's it told me we were in a cult all of a sudden. That's what it was informing me of.
they had experts, and then they all said, "Oh," and I thought Fauci was a lying scumbag as soon as I clapped eyes on the man. How about that?
Yeah, but that whole scamdemic may be more related to the shape of the Earth than we even know, because of the timing of the censorship that they put down, and then they rolled out COVID.
Horrible.
That actually could be a reaction to a lot of what's going on. So it could be.
I mean, dude, I could not talk some of my family members out of taking it. So yeah, that was.
You do acknowledge though, like the thrust of me bringing that up was to show that, or indicate that they can keep a lie, and they can convince vast swathes of people to do things against their better intentions. Right?
Okay, Rick, see, that's a very good point. Let me do a counterpoint. Right. How long did the lie last? They weren't able to. They didn't.
So, well, I'll give you an example.
A lot of people.
I'll give you a quick social example of how long I think that they can keep a lie for like that, even if it maybe not just sort of, it potentially is infinite. But the thalidomide scandal, if you're familiar,
I'm very familiar
with that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Australia just about 2-3 years ago apologized for the thalidomide scandal to the people. How long it took
that happened
for that
in Australia too?
Come out, so. Pardon? Yeah.
That happened in.
Can I just raise a philosophical point? Are you done?
Yeah, but by the way, I can't. I have to go on mute, but I am listening. Okay, but I have to go on mute. Thanks, Jeff. Just speak away. I'll be able to talk in another few.
Cheers, Red.
Thank you.
The other gentleman, please go ahead if you want.
Yeah, I think it's peculiar when someone is like half awake but can't open the other eye. It's like one eye is open and then they just want to keep the other one closed.
Well, that's why it gets so tantalating. That's why the conversation gets heated the way it does, because you're like, it's like you're almost there, dude. You're almost there.
And
but didn't you do that flat Earth? Sorry, finish.
Just from a I don't want to say theological or religious perspective, but Red seemed to be a Christian, and he did mention that a few times through the discussion. And the great deceiver, the thing about flat Earth that really blew my mind was when you discover the Rayleigh criterion, and you see that the Rayleigh criterion is that the calculation is 1.22 times the square of the diameter of the lens will tell you at what point two lights will merge into one. And then when you look into flat Earth, it's 1.22 times the square of the height of the observer. And that'll tell you when objects start to disappear behind the horizon. And this is what's so incredible about the nature of the great deceiver, is that he took the spherical nature of your eyeball and how your eyeball bends light, and how that then gets projected onto this flat plane that makes it appear spherical, or like there's curvature. And what you guys are talking about the lie, how long can you keep a lie? If I show you a white swan and I tell you it's black, and everyone believes it's black because we've told them it's black, but it's actually white, you can't keep that lie very long. But something like this, where the eyeball is the thing that's actually distorting what you're seeing in your reality, means that most people will see a vanishing point. Most people will see what they perceive to be a horizon. And because of a vanishing point and a horizon, which is based on 1.22 times the square of the height of the observer, or 1.22 times the diameter of the lens through which you're looking through, that you can determine where that point will be, shows that it's optical, that there's something to do with the human eye, the shape, nature, size of the human eye, that allows the mathematics of a spherical model to remain hidden, even though it's obviously and demonstrably and provably not a sphere, that there is no underside of a ball that people are clinging onto. But through optics, it remains just in the realm of invisible. So this isn't an obvious lie like the white swan is black and everyone must just agree that it's black. This is how great Satan was with his deception, in that he used the spherical nature of the eyeball over this flat plane to work out all the mathematics to make everyone believe it's a sphere, simply based on observations through an eyeball. And then when you look into the globe Earth mathematics, at 10,000 feet, you're supposed to have 666 feet of drop. And when you look at the speed of the Earth around the sun, it's 66.6 miles per hour. And when you look at the 666 comes up 10 times or 15 times in all mathematics involved with this globe Earth belief. And from someone with a religious base, firstly understanding that there is a great deceiver who's trying to deceive people. Therefore, you don't have the truth, that you are being deceived. Secondly, to see 666 show up 10 times or 8 times on just the most basic fundamentals of the globe Earth religion could put a question mark there. And then the fact that your eyeball is the thing that's actually causing the vanishing point in the horizon. Light travels in straight lines, but your eyeball concentrates it. So your eyeball is the reason you have a vanishing point. If you had a square eyeball, there would be no vanishing point. So because your eyeball is spherical, and it happens to be just sufficiently spherical that the 1.22 correlates with the diameter of a lens to the height of the observer to the distance of the horizon, implies that it's your eyeball that's creating that illusion of sphericity. So it's...
That mean, how does that work?
If I use an
So there would
instrument
be
to
no...
observe...
Excuse me?
Go, Rick.
I want to
If
hear both.
you use
Sorry,
a different, if you use a different camera,
I want to hear both.
it's-
Hold on. Solar, you did go on for a bit. Let's let Tarek and Daza both respond if we can, and then in between, if you want to respond, because I'd really like to hear both their points. Whoever wants to go first.
Dazzle hit it. I've got more of a question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out this square eyeball thing.
So a couple of things. So the eyeball thing, right? We can eliminate the eyeball as a coincidence by observing the shape of the Earth with an instrument that has a different aperture or uses different wavelengths, right? So that then we find there's no correlation between the nominal resolution of the eyeball and the position and distance to the horizon. The other thing I wanted to
just okay,
no.
like good attempt, but it's the 1.22 times the square of the diameter of the lens. So the diameter of your retina is one diameter. Take a different telephoto lens, and then you take the diameter of that telephoto lens and you times it by 1.22. So it does. Your point is moot because it doesn't matter what device you're using. It's still 1.22 times the diameter of the device you're using.
Yeah, but the resolution increases. But what I'm saying is so I can get higher resolution by increasing the diameter, and that doesn't change where optically the horizon appears to be. It's at the same angle and the same apparent position. So there's no correlation there. And the other thing that you touched on earlier was...
But there is, because as the diameter of the lens increases, times by the 1.22, the horizon is pushed back. So if I take a diameter
the horizon
of the
doesn't
lens,
move.
if I take a diameter of the lens of a meter, the apparent position where the sky meets the ground, which is the definition of a horizon, does move based on the diameter of the lens. So if I take a
the angle
telephoto
is the
lens,
same, the distance
I can
is
see
the
the
same,
horizon
the
at
same
30
things will
miles
be
away.
obscured.
That's false. If I take a large telephoto lens, I can push the horizon back to 30 kilometers or 40 kilometers or 60 kilometers or 80 kilometers. But if I take a human eyeball...
That's factually incorrect.
It's mathematics, Daza. If you have a lens that's like...
And it's only mathematics if you think the Earth's flat. In actual fact, you cannot move the horizon by zoom.
It is it's not by zoom, by size of aperture or diameter of aperture. So you take the 1.22, which is constant, and then you take a variable, which is the diameter of the lens that you're using. So if the diameter of the lens is 6 meters, you go 6 times by 1.22, and you're going to have a larger distance than when I use half of a meter times 1.22. And this is the Rayleigh criterion. This is a physical
I agree
law
about the Rayleigh criterion. That works, right? But it doesn't change where the apparent horizon is.
But do you agree that if the diameter of the lens changes, your distance will change? Or you don't agree with that?
The resolution will improve. You may not see any further, depending on where you're looking. So if you're looking at the horizon in particular, you will not see any further. You might bring out detail that you can't see, but the position of the horizon in that image. So imagine you had a zoom lens is the same. The aperture of a zoom lens changes with the zoom.
But so what you're postulating is that because we live on a sphere, and we know that the horizon can be no further than 3 miles away from a 6-foot observer, it matters not what camera I use, the horizon will always be at 3 miles away from a 6-foot observer.
You didn't say that.
No, I didn't say that. No, that's
saying
the nominal geometric horizon doesn't change.
You're saying the horizon cannot change. So we know, based on your globe Earth maths, a 6-foot observer has a horizon at 3 miles away. And you're saying I can take out a telephoto lens, which can see 20 miles or 40 miles away, but it can't actually do that because the horizon's 3 miles and everything after 3 miles is behind the horizon, is your point.
After and below. Yes, that's correct. So zooming in does not move
you
the
do
position
agree
of the
with
horizon.
what I said, which is false.
That the Rayleigh criteria improves the resolution, yes.
It improves the resolution and thereby also increases the distance to the apparent position where the sky meets the ground.
No, that is incorrect.
You've never seen a photo from a 6-foot observer that's beyond 3 miles. So any
I've
photo
seen ones
you've
beyond
seen
3 miles, but that's variable,
like
right?
Black Swan.
At a given point in
Black
time,
Swan was taken from a foot above ground level.
And
you can
the
see
Black
the
Swan
oil
is
platform.
a waste of our time.
No, it's not, because
And
your
it's
point
not
that you
to do with the Rayleigh criterion.
But the point that you just agreed to is that a 6-foot observer will always have the horizon at 3 miles.
That's
no
not
matter
what I said. That is not what I said. You're putting words in my mouth. I said,
you said
at a given
everything
point in
past that
time,
point will be below and past that horizontal point, and that the Rayleigh criterion is simply about clarity. So I can see clarity of nothing beyond the 3 miles from a 6-foot observer. And Black Swan from a 1-foot observer took photos of an object 60 miles away.
Try and go back and forth, you guys. Come on.
Yeah, and real quick. Yeah. Can I just hear though? So Solar, are you generally saying that the reason the horizon is what it is because it's where those two objects meet to one, basically the way the Rayleigh criterion? Is that how you're linking it? That the ground and sky are the meeting point of that, which is the 1.22, which is that the point at which the Rayleigh criterion, which they combine. This is kind of a short little side question. Is that what you're referring to though with it?
So the crux of that point was the 1.22 times by either the height of the observer or the square of the height of the observer gives you your horizontal line, or 1.22 times the square of the diameter of the lens is the Rayleigh criterion, thereby showing that the horizon or the horizontal point is simply optical. So your question, just repeat what your question was. I didn't quite. You phrased it in a way that's kind of trying to link two aspects of what I'm trying to keep clear in my mind. So maybe I've
it's
just
all
lost
good.
your
It
question.
just has to do. No, it's all good. It was kind of just reiterative. It's just, I think we're on the same page, but I mean, it's the diffraction pattern that occurs with the Rayleigh criterion, which ends up being the meeting place of the ground and the sky. I mean, I guess it's like somewhat of a steel man, but I'm just trying to clarify, is that how you're using the horizon as that like diffraction point? Like, for example,
Correct.
here, I'm gonna post this real quick. I think maybe Witsit, somebody had posted this, and then anyways, but it sort of shows like a basic diffraction, and then it just shows you know, the line there and then the meeting place. So I mean, essentially, you're equating that to being what the horizon is.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Because we know that height of observer does push the horizon line back, and that's why we always factor in height above sea level into our observations, because height above sea level is critical. If I gain 6 feet or 12 feet or 100 feet above sea level, I see the horizon at a vastly different position.
Right, because you're creating a radius. You're creating a radius essentially from your eye to the limit of.
Correct, or an angle, yeah. But the optical side of things, with the Rayleigh being 1.22 times by the square of, it's both present in the lens. So whether I'm using a 6 meter large diameter telephoto lens, or whether I've got a 1/8 of an inch pupil, it's always related to 1.22 times the square of the lens that you're looking through. And then the 1.22 is also relating to the height of the observer. And that 1.22 times by the square of shows me that there's definitely something optical about where that horizon appears to be. And then something like the Black Swan, where you go down to 1 foot above sea level and you see 60 miles away, is the nail in the coffin for the globe Earth, because that would create a globe that's, I think it's 180 times the diameter of the current diameter of the Earth. So we'd have to have an Earth size that would extend past where the moon is said to be orbiting the Earth for that single observation, if the Earth was still a sphere. But the fact that it's a 1.22 times the square of, and then use X, whether it's lens size or height of observer, shows that the point of the horizon is purely optical. And if your eyeball was not curved in the way it is, we would not have a vanishing point. If we had a straight lens in our eyeball, the light would enter and not be refracted or not be converging to a single point at the back of your eyeball that creates the optical illusion of a vanishing point. Because the vanishing point is optical.
Can I push back a little?
Can I just?
Well, a couple.
I was first.
Oh, I know. Well, Daz actually originally was. I kind of brought this up as.
Yeah, I just want to clarify my point that was misrepresented. Then I'll drop out. It'll only take me 30 seconds, if that's right, or 10 even.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, under a given observation condition where we haven't got extreme refraction like the Black Swan, so we've got a nice, crisp, clear horizon. You know, a classic horizon image, right? Changing the aperture of your lens will not change the apparent position of the horizon. It will be in the same angle. The same things will be obscured for any given observing conditions. Where that horizon appears to be is subject to a whole bunch of variables, but zooming in on the horizon, changing the aperture will not change the angular position of the horizon or where it physically appears to be. That's it.
Yeah, well, if Solar's going to respond, I imagine he would agree, but if he's at his mic.
No, that's absolutely false, because when I start to zoom in, I look out to the ocean, and it appears like the horizon is somewhere between 3 and 5 miles away. And then I zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, and suddenly I see a boat that was not even resolvable when I was standing on the beach. And then I still see the horizon past that boat, which was not even resolvable at the beach level. And that's due to
the
a
horizon,
zoom,
then, are you?
which is increasing aperture size. And as I increase the aperture size times by the constant of, or the square of that aperture size times by the constant of 1.22, does give me a greater distance. If I'm increasing something and squaring it and timesing it by the constant of 1.22, it will always give you a greater distance. And that's why there are millions, or let's say tens of thousands, of flat earth videos of people standing at the beach. You're looking at the beach, you see a horizon level, and then you zoom out, or zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. And eventually you see a boat that was not even visible from where you were, and then you can still see the horizon past that boat level. Whereas when you were standing at the beach, it appeared like the horizon was 3 to 5 miles away because you were only
I can
looking
observe the
through
horizon
aperture
with
of
my
your own
naked
bubble.
eye. I can see ships go over the horizon with my naked eye and be truncated. And I know that zooming in on those ships will not change the amount of ship that I see under those conditions. The horizon does not move. It does not change the scope of what is visible. Details that I cannot see will come in, but the things that are below the horizon remain below the horizon when I zoom in.
Then you have never looked at any of the tens of thousands of flat Earth videos.
I have, and you're completely misrepresenting what happens.
The only one that I've seen, they zoom in and a boat shows up, a small vessel shows up that you couldn't see, but it's just because it's too small to see. It's a little fuzzy too.
Yeah, this is kind of a both and situation. I feel like because there's 2 points to this. There's one where you just don't have the resolution. Therefore, if you can zoom in or whatever, maybe you can get more resolution. Therefore, a boat that wasn't visible will then be visible. But then there's another scenario, like when you have that actual optical obscuration point, like what they call boats cutting off from the bottom or whatever. There's nothing like if you have that strict cutoff, there's nothing that you can do to make that not happen, like by changing lenses or zooms. So it's kind of 2 things. One of them,
set a time for 8 minutes.
Yeah, so it would just to reiterate, he's hot micing. I think he's hot micing. No, I'm just saying, so if a boat is there and it's not cut off from the bottom up, but you just can't resolve it, that's where zooming in, you'll be able to see it when you otherwise couldn't. But it's not because the cutoff is changing, it's just because the zoom and the resolution and so on is changing. However, if you have that cutoff point, leaving aside what that's caused by, I'm just saying, if you have that cutoff point that's very, very, very slick, I mean, changing altitude might change it, but other than that, there's nothing with optics that would be able to make that disappear, that cutoff point. That's what I was saying. So do you guys agree or disagree with those 2 delineations?
I agree with you, Jim.
Yeah, I agree with you in principle because a wave or like a hump of water that is close to you can cause obscuring of something very far in the distance. So I 100% agree. If it's actually obscured because water is in front of you and the observation, no lens can bring that object back if it's already obscured. But again, due to perspective, I can put my thumb in front of my eyeball and block the whole world out. And my thumb is just less than half an inch wide. But if I held my thumb at a certain distance, it's not going to block the whole world out. So if I'm taking a low elevation observation and there's even a 1 foot wave between me and the boat, that 1 foot wave at, call it 10 feet away from me, could block an entire mountain because that 1 foot wave is causing a blockage in your visibility to that object in the distance.
So if you hold it up at your waist, if you hold your thumb up at your waist and see if you'll block a mountain. The water's below your line of sight. Therefore, a 1 foot wave is not going to hide anything in the distance.
It can hide the bottom of something, which is why you guys tend to presume that things are disappearing bottom first. Because when we're taking long distance observations, it's generally over the ocean where you have not only swells, but you have a peak, a crest, and a trough for every wave cycle. And certain swells are sometimes 6 feet or 8 feet or 10 feet. And if I put that object when I'm taking a 1 foot observation and the peak or the crest of that swell is 3 or 4 feet high above my 1 foot observer height, you are now creating an obstruction for things in the distance, especially from bottom up.
We need the rumpus.
Well, the issue with that is that we are not restricted to viewing things at sea level. And what I think is being done is that you are